The Tinder Swindler Review. The man swindling on Tinder. Simon seduces, befriends, and then eventually swindles people out of money. This documentary was recently released and it's #1 everywhere. So is it worth watching? Well, let's find out. Here is a review of The Tinder Swindler. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. I thought this was an interesting documentary. I feel the pacing was definitely there, however I feel the runtime is something that could have been shaved slightly. I feel it could have shaved around 15 to 20 minutes off of it to make it concise and deliver it in a way that allowed for the impact to hit in a more abrupt way, as I feel there was around 15 minutes where I started to disconnect from it. I thought the way that the documentary started off with the development and building of the overall narrative was done really well. The show did a good job in introducing you to the romantic relationship that was built. And you could tell that at the start, that the relationship felt genuine and you could see just how Cecily could fall for Simon due to the bravado and front that he was putting on. I kept having to remind myself throughout the first half that I was watching a documentary that was going to take a dark turn. I feel they did a good job in balancing out the inclusion of the WhatsApp messages, the animations of Tinder, and the swiping through photos. Often when shows and movies try to replicate that, it can look superimposed onto the screen, and it can look quite jarring, but in this instance I think it was executed quite well and supported whatever was being spoken about on screen. The first half of the documentary was executed well in highlighting the two different stories at the same time, seeing just how much he was playing both of the women but at the different ends of the scale, one in a romantic sense and the other in a friendly sense, to the point where it felt like he was never going to do Penelia wrong specifically. That's one thing that I thought was done extremely well. The movie led you into a false sense of security and made you think you were watching something else, for the first half at least. Once the initial introduction was done and we saw the two women that Simon was swindling, we then saw the two stories meet. Penelia and Cecile were brought together after Simon swindled over $250,000 out of Cecile and just over $100,000 out of Penelia. I thought the way that the two experiences naturally came together on screen was handled really well, as it felt like it could have felt disjointed. You could really feel the suspense and the ante being upped when they started to unravel more of the truth about Simon, and when they went to Tel Aviv to track him and his roots down, whilst then eventually confronting him on the phone and him catching the journalists taking photos of him. The revelation of hearing that he was actually a criminal that was on the run was quite a shock, and then understanding his logic of always flying to different places and having women in different locations all around the world made sense, as the authorities would never be able to catch him. It was revealed after the revelation in the documentary in the final third, leading up to his most recent girlfriend at the time, Aileen, that she then tried to swindle him out of money by selling his clothes on eBay. I thought good on her when she announced that she did that, as after explaining that she was assaulted in the past, Simon had no problem inflicting fear in her, and it showed just how cruel of a person he was. I was shocked at the end to find out that once he was caught, he only served 5 months in prison, and was never convicted of the crimes that he committed in the documentary. I was even more shocked at the fact that he's now somehow living this luxurious life again, and has a famous model as a girlfriend, which shows he's still probably living off of people's money and misfortune. It makes you question just how much he's been able to steal off of people over the years. The movie really highlighted just how much of an emotionless person with no remorse Simon actually was. It baffles me that he's still managing to do this despite the article being published and the documentary being aired. I feel this documentary was executed really well. This could have easily been done in the true crime format that we're used to seeing a Netflix docuseries in, spread over a few episodes, but it felt like it had a more light-hearted, creative approach, despite the subject matter being extremely serious. It had a similar creative execution to the Fire Festival documentary that was released on Netflix a few years ago, and I think by doing that, it allowed the story that was being shared to cut through. Although almost 2 hours in runtime, you go on a whirlwind of a ride, learning about the Tinder swindler and his victims, and you won't regret giving it a watch. So, there you have it, what I thought of the Tinder Swindler. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.